good afternoon, good evening, good night, whatever time it is in the cosmos when this is finding you there. Welcome to Kaichi Alchemy. You can call me Kachi. This is a space of love, y'all. Welcome or welcome back. I want to thank y'all for showing up. Thank you for co-creating community with us. Thank you for all of the engagement and the likes and the shares and the subscribes and things. Today we are going to be reading the very last chapter of the Ringing Cedars of Russia series, book 2, The Ringing Cedars of Russia, by Vladimir Megre. And in the beginning of this series, I luckily had access to a fantastic natural environment to film these videos, and it was so fun. And even though it was in the middle of the winter and it was so cold outside, I was still doing it anyways, because it's always really recommended, if possible, to read these chapters in natural settings with those kind of sounds. Hello, yes sir, good morning. Afternoon, whatever time it is with you, probably not the afternoon over there. Yeah, so we have this space now today, and maybe going forward, so we'll see if as we start the next book, The Space of Love, which I'm really excited to share with you guys. It gets a lot into like family and education, especially, and it's just a really dear one to my heart. So this is going to be a very long chapter. If you would like to grab some tea or coffee or something to drink or eat or whatever, feel free, go ahead. And did you see? Actually, I've got some. I'm cupping my suboccipitals right there, so you can't really see. But I just got my undercut redid, which is very useful because it's like it's very hot here, very hot. Whew. Okay, so we're going to read this very long chapter together. I'm going to pull a couple of cards, probably before and after, just because I feel like it. And then, you know, I do have a life, so I can't be on here all day forever. But if you have any personal questions you'd like for me to answer, feel free to ask. It doesn't hurt to ask, and I might be able to help. You know what I mean? Why? What? Yes, sir. Why did I just get my undercut, or why am I cupping my suboccipitals? Or C. Option C? I don't know. So let's... Freya, Folly, Michael, Mary, please be here with me now. Please allow me to see. Please allow me to channel the messages in alignment with this collective's greatest and highest good, balanced with that of the collective at large. Please and thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for your wisdom, thank you for your protection, thank you for your guidance, thank you for your insights. Whoa, those came out at the same time, so I'm going to take them both. Whoa! Okay. I got the Eight of Cups and Justice. Pisces, Libra, water, air. What does water and air have in common? You know, air or earth and fire are kind of like fixed, and water and air are like flowy, right? So this is about flow. This is about change. It's not 9/11, it's 8/11, but you know, it's like from one universe to the other, from one base 10 set to the next. The Eight of Cups is about walking away from something, and Justice is about, well, walking towards something, walking away from something, making something happen that is in alignment, that needs to happen. So the justice, the fairness, the truth, the clarity that brings equality and balance, and balances the laws of cause and effect and puts things in their proper position, is disappointment, abandonment, withdrawal, escapism, walking away, leaving behind, saying no. And the Eight of Cups is a no, Justice is a yes. So it's like you have to say no to something in order to say yes to something else. I would say that's probably the theme of today's reading. So we're going to go ahead and get into the book, and after that I will pull some more cards on individual questions, as well as perhaps the general collective getting a little bit more thorough in there. Oh, and there is an afterword, so I may or may not read that later on in a different video. Yeah. Right now, we're coming up to the end of my 100 days in a row of live streaming every day. We've already far surpassed the original goal that I had in doing that, but over the last week, I have had the experience of having my content pushed out to a lot fewer people, because last week I filmed a video and I didn't catch myself and censor myself with a bunch of the stuff that we're not supposed to say. I think that I dropped the K word a couple of times, and so my videos haven't been getting out to new people as much, you know what I mean? No, this is not a place for that. This is a place for card pulling and spiritual counseling. Yeah, indeed. Do they have dating apps where you live? That might be good. They have like friend dating apps now too. I think Bumble has one of those. They're pretty cool. And this chapter is chapter 33, so that's the Jesus number. 700 on the clock. Perhaps some of y'all would like to check out that Bible Unveiled video. I know it's a little out there, but you know, so is this book. All that is to say that it makes sense. I mean, it's kind of appropriate that I am dealing with a little bit of this content being, you know, suppressed a bit. It was my own bad, but I think that we're going to take a little step back just because the new moon's coming up. We're coming to the end of this 100 days. I do want to set back, get really quiet, and get into my own energy and figure out what the next step, what the next goal here is going to be, what the next focus is going to be. And I think I'm going to be focusing on short form content, live streaming every week, once a week, just to do like coffee chat and doing individual mini readings and stuff like that, so that we can gather on like a consistent basis and know when that's going to be happening. But other than that, not really making any commitments on this YouTube channel, because I think that we're going to be focusing on building up my Instagram presence a little bit and doing maybe like 100 days of reassociation daily, which is a lot less talking and thinking and mental mastication, and about giving inspiration and techniques and skills and approaches for the opposite of disassociation, for like getting into your body, for getting out of your head. So it's kind of balancing this out. And then after that, we'll bring them back together and we'll start weaving it together. Because I realize I have a lot less movement content out of the 6 topics that I focus on here. And that's really been not because of any sort of intention. Are the cicadas real loud? I feel like they just got real loud. Let me know how the audio is doing. Oh, that's so cute. I just see a dragonfly. I see an actual dragonfly over there. I would put the camera on it if it was possible to catch dragonflies on camera. It's so hard. I got a video of them once last year. It was pretty cool. How about y'all? What is your experience trying to, you know what I mean? Hello, Madison. I'm not sure I know what you mean. Is UTech a school? I don't know what that means either. All right, 1001 on the clock. We're gonna read chapter 33, Your Sacred Sites, O Russia. I asked Anastasia, do your people often come across ringing cedars? Very, very rarely, she replied. Perhaps 2 or 3 in 1,000 years. Right now, apart from this one that has been saved, there is one more, and it can be sawed up and used for its designated purpose. What does that mean, used for its designated purpose? What is its purpose? The great intelligence of the universe, God, who created man and his environment, no doubt had the foresight to give people the opportunity to restore their lost abilities, to use the wisdom accumulated in the non-material world. This wisdom has existed right from the start, but man's ability to perceive it has been lost through sinfulness. My grandfather and great-grandfather told you about the ringing cedar and its extraordinary healing properties. What they did not explain was that its pulsation and rhythms are close to that great intelligence. If they are merged and combined, as it were, with the rhythms already present in many people, then a man who places the palm of his hand on the warm trunk of a ringing cedar and runs his hand over it as though caressing it, thereby attains the possibility of communicating with the infinite expanse of wisdom. Such a man is capable of becoming aware of many things in the scope of his thinking at the moment of contact or thereafter. This happens in varying degree with each individual. I am telling you about the highest manifestation. But why does it happen differently? Does the cedar choose to give its power to one person and not to another? Its operation is identical in each case. Its rhythm and vibration are always the same, but some people can tune into it and feel it all the full, while others detect just a light touch. Many people don't feel anything at all to start with, but conscious awareness will gradually come even to those without feeling it. At least they have a greater possibility of feeling it. I still don't quite understand what kind of selection takes place. Vladimir, please try to read my lips. The difference is not in the power of the tree, but in the man. All right, I have found it. An example. Music. You know when music is playing. Music, too, after all, consists of vibration and rhythm, but some people listen to it attentively. They begin to have feelings from it, sometimes even tears of joy and tenderness. Others listen to the same music but feel nothing, or do not care about listening to it at all. The same with the cedar. Only those who are capable of feeling and understanding will hear anything much at all, and this much is something that will gradually unfold itself to them. It comes during the moments when man feels like pondering it. Women can gain the strength and wisdom of their pristine origins. They can fulfill their designated purpose and make both themselves and their chosen partners happy, as well as their children they give birth to in love. And here the miracle is not in the cedar, but in human aspirations. The cedar simply assists them. It is not the major contributor to noble deeds. That's incredible. It's like some kind of tempting, beautiful legend. You do not believe me? You think what I'm saying is only a legend? Why then did you make such an effort to come here? And why were you so eager to have me show you the ringing cedar? Well, I don't think it's all a legend. At first, I too didn't believe what your grandfather and great-grandfather said about the cedar. Later, after I returned home from the expedition, I read the popular scientific literature and got to know what scientists were saying about its healing properties. And I was struck by the fact that scientists and the Bible were on the same wavelength, but I never found a hint anywhere of the cedar being used to feel a link with the great intelligence or God as you describe it. Either you did not pay close enough attention to what the scientists or the Bible were saying, or you missed the main point. Otherwise, you would not be doubting my words. Then what could I have missed? There are only 2 references to cedars in the Bible. When God teaches how to treat people with their health and how to disinfect one's home, But the Bible also talks about King Solomon as one of the wisest rulers that ever lived, one revered by his people. King Solomon, you will agree, is a historical personage. He was no legend. So, and the Bible also says that this king built God a temple of cedar and a house for himself beside it also made of cedar. And in order to get the cedar, he hired more than 30,000 workers to bring it from another country. And to get the cedars cut down, Solomon asked another king named Hiram to give him people skilled in felling timber. Getting the cedar cost Solomon 20 cities of his kingdom. Think, why did the wisest of all rulers need to go to such expense and build his temple and house out of material which was less sturdy than what he had on hand already? Why? You can find the answer to that too in the Bible, where it says, "And it came to pass, when the priests were come out of the holy place, that the cloud filled the house of the Lord, so that the priests could not stand to minister because of the cloud. For the glory of the Lord had filled the house of the Lord." You can find indirect proofs of this in the works of your prominent scientists. That's great. Something I think I can believe in. It means the cedar will reveal many secrets to people. Show me the ringing cedar that can be sawed up. I'll bring it to a city with easy access for people from all over the world wishing to touch it. Where will you find a city on the earth where the inhabitants will not simply desecrate this sacred cedar, but actually ensure its protection and provide a suitable exhibition space and access for visitors? I'll try to find one. Tell me, why have you concluded that it's going to be such a difficult task? People's consciousness today is too bound up with the programs of the technocratic world. They are becoming biological robots. What kind of biological robots? The technocratic world is structured in such a way that man keeps on inventing all sorts of mechanical devices and social orders, supposedly to make his life easier. But in fact, any saving of labor is an illusion. Man himself is becoming a robot of the technocratic world. He never has enough time to contemplate the essence of being or listen to what another is saying, and no time either to reflect on his own destiny. He is literally a programmed robot. Here you are seeing everything with your own eyes and hearing it with your own ears, and you still find it hard to believe. Anastasia, with me it's a different story. I cannot call myself a strong believer. I believe in general, but probably not the same way other people do. In our world right now, there are a lot of people who truly do believe. Many read the Bible. They will grasp it immediately. They see how much the Bible talks about the cedar. They will believe and take good care of your little piece of cedar. There are different kinds of belief, Vladimir. It often happens that a man will hold in his hands the Quran or the Bible or another book containing the wisdom of the ages and say that he believes and even try to teach others, whereas in fact he is simply attempting, as it were, to make a deal with God. Look here, I believe in you. Remember that in case anything happens. What then is belief or faith? I inquired. How should it be expressed? In one's way of life, in one's perception of the world, in the understanding of one's essence and designated purpose, and one's corresponding behavior and relationship to the environment, in one's thinking. So, just believing is not enough? Just believing is not enough. Imagine an army. All the soldiers, down to the last one, believe in their commander, but they do not go into battle. They have such strong faith in him that they trust he will win in any case. So the soldiers sit back and watch as their commander goes up alone against the enemy forces. They sit there in a state of frenzy and call out, "Go, go, go! We believe in you! We know you can do it!" That's no help, Anastasia. You didn't make a real analogy. Those kinds of absurdities simply don't happen. Those kinds of absurdities do happen in real life, Vladimir. Then give me an example from the concrete realities of our life and not something made up. Fine. There is a city in Russia called Gelendzhik. It has a noble purpose. To be a place where people can go to relax from their daily grind, a place to meditate and touch sacred sites. There are many sacred sites in and around the city, which are more significant than those found in Jerusalem or more significant than the pyramids of Egypt. This city could be one of the richest cities in the world, richer than Jerusalem or Rome, but the city is dying. It is a resort town. All its houses and hotels are becoming empty and decaying. The materialistic consciousness of the local authorities prevents them from seeing the treasures which are capable of making the city flourish. When they talk about the city, they emphasize the sea, the artificial treatment facilities available, and the fact that the local hotel rooms are equipped with bedside tables and fridges. They do not even mention the sacred sites. They know little about them themselves and do not want to know. Their priorities lie elsewhere. There are many people living in this city who call themselves believers, people of many different denominations, some of them actively engaging in proselytizing. What faith do they proselytize? With their attitude to their surroundings, they have been and still are violating the very commandments contained in their sacred books. In the Bible, for instance, where it says, "Love thy neighbor as thyself." But you have to know your neighbor before you can love him. You cannot love whom you do not know. But they, the ones who call believers, do not know their neighbors, or even their forebears who lived in that sacred land and left them the inexhaustible treasure of the sacred sites as their legacy. Our ancestors had carried with them over the millennia waves of wisdom and the light of their own soul. Many people call themselves believers, yet do not notice what is sacred all around them. The sacred sites which have been left them by their ancestors to help them. What kind of sacred sites could possibly be found in a city like that? You see, Vladimir, near the city of Gelendzhik can be found growing the Lebanese cedar mentioned so many times in the Bible, and this living, direct creation of God talked about so much, even before Christ Jesus' coming to earth, is located right next to the city. It is only 100 years old. It is still but a stripling, though already very beautiful and sturdy. It has grown there because it was planted by a worthy man. He was a writer named Korolenko. Thanks to his erstwhile popularity, the cedar has been protected with a surrounding hedge, but today, the house where he lives is in a state of decay, and people are not paying attention to the tree he planted. And what about the believers? Many of the people in the city who call themselves believers pay no attention either to the tree or to the other great sacred sites of their forebears. They are destroying them, and the city is dying. That means God's punishing them in some kind of vengeance, eh? God is good. He is never vengeful. But what can he do when his creations are ignored? That's amazing. Can such a tree really exist? I must look into that. It exists, and there are many other sacred sites around the city. But people treat them from a technocratic point of view. The pyramids of the wise pharaohs. What? How do you know about the existence of the Egyptian pyramids? Thanks to generations of my forebears, the ability has been preserved within me to communicate with the dimension where thought and wisdom reside. This communication gives one the opportunity to learn anything one might wish to know, anything that captures one's interest. Hold on a moment. Let me test you. Answer me. Do you know the secrets of the Egyptian pyramids? I do. Just as I know those who investigated those pyramids were constantly working from a material standpoint. They were basically interested in how they were constructed, the dimensions and relations of the sides to each other, what treasures were hidden inside, what things were to be found there. They considered people living at the time the pyramids were built to be superstitious. They regarded the pyramids only as a means of preserving the pharaoh's valuables, their bodies, their glory. Thus, they distracted themselves from what was fundamental, from what was consciously designed. I don't understand you, Anastasia. What conscious design were they distancing themselves from? Anastasia didn't speak for some time, staring, it seemed, somewhere off into infinity. And then she began telling her remarkable story. You see, Vladimir, way back in ancient times, people living on the earth had the capacity to use wisdom and intelligence far surpassing the abilities of modern man. People at the time of the Earth's pristine origins enjoyed ready access to all the information in the entire database of the universe. This information, filling the universe, was created by the great intelligence, God, with contributions both from him and from people themselves, their thoughts. It is so superb that it is capable of answering any question unobtrusively. The answer would appear instantaneously in the subconscious of the man asking the question. And what did it give these people? These people needed no spaceships for traveling to other planets. All they had to do was wish for it, and they could see what was happening there. These people needed no television, telephone, or communication wires ensnaring the earth, not even literacy, since all the information you derived from books they were able to obtain instantaneously by other means. These people needed no industries producing medicines or drugs. They could get all the best remedies possible simply by a gentle wave of the hand, since whatever they needed is available in nature. These people needed none of your modern transportation devices. They did not need cars or food processing complexes, for everything was supplied to them. They knew that a change in climatic conditions in one part of the earth was a signal to them to move to another part, so that the part they were leaving might refresh itself. They had an understanding of the universe, along with their own planet. They were thinkers and knew their designated purpose. They worked to bring the planet Earth to perfection. They had no equals in the universe. In terms of intelligence, they were second only to the great intelligence of the universe, or God. Approximately 10,000 years ago, in human civilization that then populated what is now Europe, Asia, the northern part of Africa, and the Caucasus, individuals arose in whom the link with the intelligence of the universe was partially or wholly deadened. This point marks the beginning of man's movement toward a disaster of global proportions. The exact nature of the disaster is immaterial. Ecological, nuclear, or bacteriological, either as forecast by scientists or foretold allegorically by ancient religions. Hold on there, Anastasia. I don't at all see how the appearance of such invalids can be related to a global disaster. Your choice of that modern term, invalids, is very apt, since they were invalids, handicapped people. Now, when someone is deprived of sight, what do they need? Someone to guide them? And someone deprived of hearing? A hearing apparatus. And someone with no arms, legs, prosthesis. But there was something much greater that they lacked. They did not have a link to the intelligence of the universe. Hence, the loss of the knowledge which would help improve the earth and govern it. Imagine what would happen if the crew of a super modern spaceship suddenly lost 90% of their mental capacity. Not comprehending anything, they might start taking apart the paneling and building a fire in the cabin, or pull instruments out of their consoles to use for toys or decoration. Well, these people can be compared exactly to a demented crew like that. And these were the people, these were the handicapped invalids who first invented the stone axe, then the spear, and it is their thoughts that progressed over time to the invention of nuclear warheads. It is their thoughts that even today continue with incredible stubbornness to tear down already perfect creations and substitute their own primitive artifacts. Their descendants started inventing more and more, and in doing so kept tearing apart the super modern natural mechanisms of the earth and creating all sorts of artificial social structures. Then people started fighting with each other. These mechanisms, these machines, were incapable of existing all by themselves like natural ones. Not only could they not reproduce themselves, but they could not restore themselves after a breakdown, as a tree can, for example. And then they, the technocrats, required a vast army of workers to service these mechanisms, virtually transforming a segment of the general populace into biological robots. These biological robots, lacking as they do any individual capacity to learn the truth, very easily lend themselves to manipulation. For example, they were all too easily injected through the artificial information media with the program "We must build communism." Symbols were created for it, including lapel pins and flags of a certain color. Then later, through the same media, the program "Communism is bad" was inculcated in another segment of the populace, and other symbols and colors were brought to the fore. And then these two groups with different programming end up hating each other, right to the point of physical annihilation. But this all began 10,000 years ago, at the time of a significant increase in the number of people deprived of a link to the great intelligence. Indeed, you could even call them demented, since there was not a single living creature capable of polluting the earth the way that they did. In those far-off times, a few people were still left who had free access to the wisdom of the universe. They hoped that when mankind reached the point that the polluted air made it difficult to breathe, and the water became dangerous to drink, and all its artificially created life support systems, technological and social, proved themselves too awkward, and more often only led to disastrous imbalances, mankind would start having second thoughts. People standing on the edge of an abyss will start thinking about what being is all about. They will start pondering the meaning of their existence and purpose. Then many of them will desire to understand the truth of their pristine origins, and this is possible, but only under the absolute conditions that the abilities inherent in man's pristine origins be restored. Few of the people who lived 10,000 years ago still possessed these abilities. It was basically those heading up social groups, leaders of tribes. They began, or rather at their behest, people began to construct special facilities made of heavy stone slabs. These enclosed an interior chamber about 1.5 by 2 meters in area and 2 meters in height, sometimes more, sometimes less. The slabs were placed at a slight angle, leaning towards the center at the top. Occasionally, these chambers would be hewn of a single monolith. Other chambers might be hidden underground and covered over by mounds of dirt. bounds of earth. On one of the walls of the chamber, a cone-shaped opening was cut into the slab, approximately 30 centimeters in diameter and covered with a specially fitted stone plug. Into these tomb chambers would go people who had not lost the ability to communicate with the wisdom of the universe, those still alive, and even those who might be born thousands of years hence would be able to go to them and obtain answers to any question that were of interest to man. This required sitting beside the chamber and meditating. Sometimes the answer would come right away, sometimes after a delay, but it would definitely come, since these structures and those that retreated into them served as an information receiver. Through them, it was easier to communicate with the great intelligence of the universe. These stone structures are the prototype of the Egyptian pyramids. Only the pyramids do not constitute nearly as powerful a receiver, even though they are far greater in size. Their essence and function, however, is pretty much the same. The pharaohs who were buried in Egyptian pyramids were also thinkers, and at least partially preserved the abilities inherent in man's pristine origins. But in order to obtain an answer to a question using the pyramids, those still living had to come to the pyramid not individually, but in large numbers. They had to stand along each of the four sides and direct their physical and mental gaze upward as though skimming over the pyramid's oblique sides right to its top. There at the top, people's gazes and thoughts focused on a single point, consequently forming a channel facilitating contact with the mind of the universe. Even today, it is possible to do the same thing and obtain a desired answer. At the focal point of everyone's mental gaze, an energy forms, an energy not unlike radiation. If a measuring device were placed at the top of the pyramid, right at the focal point, it would record the intensity of this energy. The people standing at the base, too, would feel strange sensations. Oh, if it were not for the sinful pride of people today, the prevailing public opinion, the false perception that past civilizations were less advanced, people today would then be able to find out the real purpose of the pyramid. With all the attention modern researchers have paid to how they were built, they still have not been able to figure this out. And it is all so simple. In constructing the pyramids, apart from physical strength and various pieces of equipment, they always used mental energy to reduce the force of gravitation. Whole groups of people with this kind of an ability would assist the builders. There are people alive today who are able to move small objects with their will, but of immeasurably greater significance than the pyramids in terms of contact with the mind of the universe were the smaller stone structures which preceded them. Why, Anastasia? I asked. Because of the way they were constructed? Their shape? Because, Vladimir, living people retreated there to DIE. And there was a most unusual one. They went into eternal meditation. What do you mean living people? What for? To create for their descendants the possibility of bringing back the power of their pristine origins. An elderly person, as a rule, one of the wiser leaders or founders of the tribe, sensing his end was near, would ask his relatives and family to place him in a stone chamber. If he were considered worthy, they would grant his request. They would push away the heavy, massive slab covering the top of the chamber. He would go into the stone chamber, and the slab would be pushed back into place. Inside, the man would be completely isolated from the external material world. His eyes would see nothing. His ears would hear nothing. Complete isolation, the impossibility of even entertaining a thought about going back, but not yet having crossed into the next world. The deactivation of the usual organs of feeling, sight, and hearing would open up the opportunity for full communication with the mind of the universe and the comprehension of many phenomena, as well as of many of the actions of earth dwellers. Most important of all, they would be able to subsequently transmit what they have discovered to those still alive, as well as to succeeding generations. Today, you would call an approximation of such a state of mind meditation. But that is merely child's play in comparison with meditation in eternity. Afterward, people would come to this stone chamber, pull out the plug covering the opening, and begin thinking, mentally consulting with the thoughts lingering in the chamber. The spirit of wisdom was always there. But Anastasia, by what means can you prove the existence of such structures to those of us living today, let alone the fact that people went into them for eternal meditation? I can. That is why I am telling you. Then how? It is very simple. After all, these chambers made of stone, they still exist today. You call them dolmens. You can see them and touch them, and you can verify everything I've told you. What? Where? Can you pinpoint their location? Yes, I can. And for example, in the Caucasus Mountains, not far from the cities you now call Gelendzhik, Taups, Novorossiysk, and Sochi. I can verify that. I'll make a special trip there. I still can't believe such things exist. I'll definitely check to see. Do verify by all means. The local inhabitants know about them, but they do not pay any attention to them. Many dolmens have already been plundered. People do not understand their true purpose. They do not know about the possibilities they afford for contact with the wisdom of the universe. Those who have entered into eternal meditation can never be re-embodied in anything material. They have sacrificed eternity for the sake of their descendants, and now it turns out their knowledge and opportunities have gone begging. This has caused them great sorrow and anguish. As for proof that in the past, living people went into these dolmens this may be confirmed by the position of the skeletal bones discovered in them. Some were found in reclining positions, others sitting in a corner or semi-reclining, leaning against one of the stone slabs. This fact has been attested by people today. It has been described by your scientists, but they still have not attributed any special significance to it. No serious studies of the dolmens have been undertaken. The dolmens are being laid waste by the local inhabitants. Some of them have been using their stone slabs for construction of new buildings. Anastasia sorrowfully lowered her head and fell silent. I promised her. I will tell them what you said. I'll explain everything to them, so they won't go on plundering and laying waste. They won't mock them anymore. They simply don't know. Do you think you will manage to convince them? I'll try. I'll go to these places and try to explain. I don't know quite how at the moment. I'll find these dolmens, pay them my respects to them, and explain it all to the people. That would be good. Then, if you are going to those places, please pay your respects to the dolmen in which my foremother died. Astonishing. How do you know that your foremother lived in these places and how she died? Anastasia replied, how could one not know, Vladimir, how one's ancestors lived and what they did? How could one not be aware of their desires and aspirations? My ancient foremother certainly deserves to be remembered. All the mothers in my family since then have learnt of her wisdom, and she continues to help me today. My foremother was a woman who had perfect knowledge of how to inculcate in her child, through breastfeeding, the ability to communicate with the mind of the universe. Even back in her time, people were starting to ignore the significance of this, just as people ignore it today. In breastfeeding an infant, the mother should never allow herself to be distracted by random thoughts, but concentrate all her attention on her child. My foremother knew what to think about and how, and consequently wanted to share her knowledge with everyone. She was not yet that old when she started asking the leader about being placed in a dolmen. This was because the leader was getting old, and she knew his successor would not accede to her request. Women were rarely permitted to go into a dolmen. The old leader revered my foremother and had great respect for her knowledge, and he gave his consent. Only he could not compel any menfolk to push back the dolmen's heavy stone slab and then reseal it once my foremother had entered. Consequently, this task had to be carried out by women and women alone. But nobody comes to visit my foremother's dolmen anymore. People are not interested in what she knows, and she so desperately wanted to share it with everybody. She wanted children to be happy and a joy to their parents. Anastasia, if you wish, I shall go to visit this dolmen and ask her how to feed infants. Ask her what to think along this line. Just tell me where it's located. Fine, I shall tell you. Only you will not be able to comprehend her response. You are not a nursing mother, after all. You do not know what a nursing mother feels. Only women, nursing mothers, are in a position to understand. Just go to the dolmen. Go up to it and touch it. Think some good thought about my foremother. She will like that. For some time, neither of us said a word. I was amazed at how detailed her explanations were regarding the exact location of the dolmens. Enough information for me to subsequently verify, and I was not about to raise any further doubts about their existence. I'll put all of the pictures in the community tab. How's that? I did ask her, however, to show me some proof of the possibility of contact with the invisible and still incomprehensible to me wisdom of the universe. To which Anastasia responded, Vladimir, if you keep on doubting everything I say, any proof I have to offer will seem incomprehensible and unconvincing to you, and I shall have to spend a great deal of time explaining. Don't be offended, Anastasia. It's just that your unusual lifestyle as a recluse. How can you call me a recluse when I have the opportunity to communicate not only with everyone and everything on Earth, but with significantly more? So many on Earth are surrounded by utterly lonely people just like themselves. These are real hermit recluses. It is not that frightening to be alone. It is much more frightening when one is lonely, even when surrounded by people. But still, I persisted. If one of our prominent scientists, let's say, could talk about that dimension, the one where, as you say, thoughts produced by human civilizations reside, people would be more inclined to believe that just on your say-so. That's the way people today are. They look to formal science as an authority. There are such scientists. I have seen their thoughts. I cannot tell you their names, but no doubt they are renowned scholars by your standards. They have the capacity for prolific thought. You can hunt down the proofs you need when you get back and compare them with everything I have said. Upon arriving in the Caucasus, I located the dolmens in the mountain near Gelendzhik. I took some color photos of them. They knew about the dolmens at the local history museum, only they didn't attach any particular significance to them. I also managed to find the dolmen where Anastasia's foremother was buried. Paying my respects, I laid flowers on the moss-covered stone portal. As I looked at the dolmens, I realized that here was visible and tangible proof of Anastasia's words. By that time, I had read the account from 1 Kings in the Bible about King Solomon and his relationship to the cedars of Lebanon. Not being much of a scholar myself, I wasn't about to leaf through a whole lot of scientific works trying to find confirmation of Anastasia's words, but by extraordinary coincidences, this young recluse from the remote Siberian taiga seemed to be able to confirm from a distance the truth of everything she said, and in the language of modern science. People took it upon themselves to bring or send me scientific studies dealing with the existence of the mind, of the universe. At the beginning of the book, I cited the conclusion of 2 academicians, Vlail Kaznachev, member of the Russian Academy of Medical Sciences and director of the Institute of Clinical and Experimental Medicine, and Anatoly Akimov of the International Institute of Theoretical and Applied Physics in the Russian Academy of Natural Sciences, published in the May 1996 issue of Wonders and Adventures, Chudesa I Priключения. I have been writing this chapter about the sacred sites of Gelendzhik right in the city itself. The text has been keyboarded into the computer by an employee of Druzhba Friendship Sanatorium, Marina Davinova Slapkina. Prior to its publication in the book, it was gone over by employees of the sanatorium, and something interesting happened. On the 26th of November 1996, at 10:30 in the morning, Moscow time, an event occurred which did not have any obvious claim to significance, although I am certain that it will prove to be of planetary proportions. A group of women were making their way towards one of the dolmens in the mountain near the settlement of Shada in the Gelendzhik district. They were all employees of Druzhba Sanatorium, B.T. Larinova, N.M. Ribanova, L.S. Zvetgintseva, T.N. Zaitseva, T.N. Korolskaya, A.G. Tarasova, L.M. Romanova, and M.D. Slapkina. In contrast to the tourists that sometimes visit these places to admire their natural beauty and gawk at this lonely mountain dolmen, these people, possibly for the first time in a millennium, came to the dolmen for the specific purpose of honoring the memory of their ancient forebear. To honor the memory of a person who lived more than 10,000 years ago. A wise leader of his people who, at his own initiative, was sealed into this stone crypt, alive, so that over the millennia he could share the wisdom of the universe with his descendants. It is difficult to say for just how many millennia his efforts went begging. Traces of our own era's atrocities are seared into the ancient slabs in the form of modern graffiti and the forcibly enlarged aperture in the dolmen's portal. Visitors to the dolmen, at least over the past century, have thought little about its significance, about the person buried there, his wisdom, his desire and aspiration to sacrifice his life for the living. This is all eloquently attested in a number of pre-revolutionary as well as more recent monographs I have seen. Scientists, researchers, and archaeologists have been more interested in the dimension of the dolmen itself, amazed and eager to determine how the multi-ton slabs were prepared and put in place. And now, I looked at the woman standing by the dolmen with flowers they had brought to lay at the portal and thought to myself, how many centuries or even millennia have passed since you last received flowers, oh illustrious ancestor? What does your soul feel now? What is happening this very moment in the astral world? Have you, our distant and yet so close forebears, taken these flowers as the first sign that your efforts are not in vain? And among people today, your descendants, there is an aspiration toward living one's life with greater conscious awareness. These are but the first flowers. No doubt there will be more and more, but the first ones are the most desirable. And you will be helping those who are now living attain the wisdom of the universe and the conscious awareness of being. You are our distant forebears. Participants in this visit to the dolmen included the sanitary inspector of the Gelendzhik Health Service, i.e. Pokrovsky. He had been invited by Valentina Larinova in her capacity as local tour guide and museum curator to accompany them and measure the dolmen's radioactivity. Miss Larinova told me that once on an excursion she had led to this dolmen, a tourist had brought along a Geiger counter which had showed a significant level of radiation. This individual later took her aside so as not to alarm the other tourists, showed her the counter, and told her about the presence of radioactivity at the dolmen. This time, the health service inspector had brought along a fairly accurate radiation meter in his own special case. He began measuring radiation levels even before we got close to the dolmen, and continued his readings right up to the dolmen itself, and even inside. While Miss Larinova was giving her talk to the group of women, I was seized by the fear that now this medical inspector would announce the results of his measurements for all to hear. And as this would not just be a tourist's observation, but an official conclusion, people might stop coming to visit the dolmen once they learnt of the elevated radiation levels. Anastasia had told me that this radiation-like energy could come and go. It was controllable and could have a beneficial effect on man. But how would we, people of the modern world, look upon the opinions of this, let's admit, not very typical woman, in contrast with the affirmations of modern science and facts established by modern scientific equipment, especially concerning radiation, which man is so fearful of today? Oh God, I thought, poor Anastasia. She wanted so much, after all, for people to take a different attitude, a more thoughtful attitude towards these ancient, extraordinary places, burial places of our ancestors. And now there would be an official pronouncement. Even in the best case, it would mean no more visitors to the dolmens. In the worst case, they might be destroyed altogether. People wouldn't even use them any longer for construction as they had before, but if this mind of the universe really exists, if Anastasia can use it so freely, then they'd better come up with something at least. Pokrovsky approached the group of employees standing by the dolmen and announced the readings on the meter. They were most extraordinary. I felt overwhelmed, first with amazement and then with joy. According to the readings, the closer one got to the dolmen, the more the Earth's background radiation decreased. This was all the more remarkable since on its way to the dolmen, our group had passed through areas of elevated radioactivity. One would have expected the people standing at the dolmen, their clothing, shoes, etc., to have retained traces of this radiation. But in spite of this, the measuring device still showed decreased levels. It was as though an invisible someone had said, "Do not be afraid of us, people. We are your distant forebears. We wish you well. Take our knowledge, children." And all at once I realized, Anastasia, this phenomenon must be attributable directly to her. Yes, definitely to her. Even though she was thousands of kilometers away, she had drawn an invisible line across the millennia, linking those living today with an ancient civilization, thereby causing a surge in people's consciousness of an aspiration toward good. Even if it were just small, Even if it were just among a small group of people, it was still a beginning. And it was something absolutely real, since here in front of me was a real dolmen, and here were real and tangible women and real flowers that they had brought. According to scientific literature, dolmens are to be found near Tups, Sochi, and Novorossiysk, as well as in England, Turkey, North Africa, and India. This points to the existence of an ancient civilization with a single culture whose members could communicate over vast distances. As Anastasia's information reaches more and more people, their attitude toward whatever other dolmens have been preserved will no doubt change. This is evidenced by the reaction of the people of Gelendzhik. Indeed, the world's first excursion to a dolmen following Anastasia's amazing revelations about them took place at Gelendzhik, led by Valentina Laranova, the luckiest and happiest woman alive, as she describes herself. And here was a woman with 30 years experience as a tour guide and a member of the Gelendzhik City Council to boot. But that's not all. Under Ms. Laranova's guidance, a group of local historians began comparing already known facts. They spoke with long-term residents of the area and read biographies of saints, all of which enabled them to confirm the existence in the Gelendzhik environs of the sacred sites Anastasia had spoken of. These were unique sacred sites of Russia, most of which were not even mentioned in a single tourist brochure. They included the Lebanese Cedar, St. Nina's Mountain, a monastery, and the Sacred Hand Springs. People who are healed there tie a cloth ribbon around a tree. In the Gelendzhik area, a church is now being restored. A branch of the Trinity Sergiv Monastery is under construction. I observed all this and thought to myself, look at all these sacred sites in just one small corner of Russia, springs of healing waters. And here, Russians are traipsing off to the ends of the earth to worship other people's gods. How many still forgotten sacred sites are waiting to be discovered in other parts of Russia? And who will discover them? I've done what I can. It's a pittance, of course. But at last, it has given me some hope that Anastasia will show me our son. So, armed with rompers, toys, and baby food, I set off for the Siberian taiga to once again see Anastasia and meet my son. To be continued in the next book. I think we will read the editors afterward, but might take a second there. Because of the already present, suppression of my videos, that was definitely partially my own doing. Getting lax with my censorship. I think that tomorrow or very soon I'm going to be doing a live channeled collective tarot reading with my Tarot of Smexual Magic deck. I think I will pull some cards to, use at the base of the spread. Take a picture of it, post it up with something about free readings, and we'll see if we can get some more people in here in the chat for y'all to hang out with and talk to and explore these ideas with, because I am just but one person and there are hundreds of you, and I have a lot of stuff going on in my life, so I would like to help. But I think that, again, as I always say, this is one of the greatest aspects of this space is the building of community, right? And we are an international community here, which is wonderful because you're able to connect with people who have similar goals and intentions and values, even if you are in a place where, you are surrounded by people but feel very alone, as we were kind of talking about there, right? Let me get to the beginning of this very long chapter to see if I can remember. I feel like there was something really important. Right. Hmm. Yes. Okay, so this is reminding me of, I was reading my craniosacral therapy textbook earlier, and they were saying something in there about when you first get used to this new form of palpation, you want to be taking in all of the input and information from your proprioceptive awareness and take it seriously and not doubt and not think of it as imagined and not question yourself, but to give yourself over to that experience, to go into that mode of like thinking and feeling without judging and analyzing and taking the input seriously. And there may be distortions involved, there may be, but it's only through the process of opening yourself up entirely and having this like radical faith and trust and moving forward in radical faith and trust that allows you to develop your connection to truth and to develop your discernment and your ability to discern non-truth. And so, as I say a lot on this channel, developing your intuition and your abilities is a lot about developing that self-trust, moving in that faith, and making lots of mistakes, doing lots of things that show that you are off base, that you are disconnected, that you are reading into things incorrectly, that you are sensing things inside out, distorted. But it is only through the experience of moving forward in this full faith and this full trust and taking it seriously and playing with it in the beginning. That's the only way to develop your intuition and to develop that lived experience, to know that the forces beyond the material world are real and present and powerful and functional and useful and important, and you know. So don't take my word for it. Never take my word for it. Go out and figure it out for yourself. You may or may not end up with people in your life, with community in your life, but you will be on your dharmic path and you will be less, you won't feel alone, even if you are alone. And if you feel alone right now and you're surrounded by people, truth and justice will only be found by removing yourself from these socio-emotional environments that are not serving you and are not aligned with truth and justice. This is a Libra card, right? It's about relationships. And this guy is leaving these cups behind and moving towards this justice. Water is a little bit more of a materialistic, earthly, grounded, more subjective, so less true, but not false, important, just less objective. So you're leaving this mess or you're being asked or encouraged to leave this mess behind and walk towards, is he walking? Well, it's not really the intention of this card usually, but like it looks kind of like he's moving closer to the sea. moving away from this division, like a bunch of people with their emotions and their energy all separated from each other and stagnant, and moving from this disintegration, this division, this falsity, towards the one sea of truth. And it flows. And you're connected to everything and everybody. So even if you're physically alone, what does that really matter? Maybe it was hard to survive physically on your own in nature in the past, perhaps, in some circumstances, sometimes. But I mean, in the world that we live in today, it's very possible to be that overly independent and isolated. And that's not always a bad thing. The more you pull yourself back into the cave, the more you find those dark meditative spaces, the more you connect with the mind of the universe, the more power you have, the more likelihood you have to run into, to connect with, to commune with the people that are there, that live there, that live in the great intelligence, that live in the truth, that live in the 5D, to put it to some like corny neo-pagan nonsense. So, like I said, this book is a lot more dense and slow than all the rest of them in the series. It's very dark, it's very materialistic, it's kind of the last, it's where Vladimir got a little better at writing, but he was still kind of had his head up his rear end, And you can feel that. And when I saw this guy walking off away from this stagnant water in the cups towards the ocean, towards the air, that comes over the waters, the spirit over the waters. It's like Piscean energy, but it's also when you see the air and the spirit flowing over the waters, it makes me think of when people come from below the water, in a body of water in the ocean, and they break free, and they have that gasp of air, right? They were lost, they were overwhelmed, they weren't where they belong. A fish doesn't notice the water around it because it's the environment it's meant to be in. But you felt out of place because you did not belong in a place with people whose values did not align with yours, where you had to chip away at your own self-respect in order to keep yourself safe. So the best way to keep yourself safe is to move away, to dive into the ocean. And you might say, I don't want to dive into the ocean. It's easier to control all this water that's stagnant in cups. If I dive into the ocean, I might never come back. I don't know if I'm that good at swimming. I don't know if I have that strength. I'm not familiar with the ocean and that environment. What if I run into something bad, dangerous? What if I don't make it? So it will feel scary, it will feel like a risk just because it's different, just because it's change. But that doesn't mean necessarily that it's real. Sometimes fear is a reptilian response in your nervous system that protects you in a good way. Rarely these days. Much more often, it is false evidence appearing real. So jump into the water and have faith that you will break free and you will come up for air. And when you come up for air, it will be truth, it will be justice, it will be balance, it will be true relationship. I think that that's all we're going to pull today. Yeah. I got the devil on the bottom of the deck here. Shadow self, attachment, addiction, restriction, sexuality, temptation, seduction, destructive behavior, materialism, codependency, toxicity. Just keep swimming. Up, 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 up. You might understand this place. Maybe there's like an underwater grotto. And you're like, that's good enough. But there's like some kind of crazy Selkie thing going on in there. you don't need that. It may feel safe because you know you will stay alive, you will survive. Your ego will make it through if you stay down there and you let this controlling force keep you chained. It'll feed you in chains. Or you can crawl up out of these stagnant cups. You can jump into the ocean. You can swim until you find your truth, until you find your justice, until you find your spiritual community. Or just your connection with spirit, which is actually enough, which is actually far less lonely than people living in the cities today with no self-awareness and no connection to nature or spirit or the souls of their community members. If you want people to know you and understand you, understand your soul, understand your truth, connect to it, you can ask for that to happen. You can make it happen in your own life with your own relationship with spirit first. And that creates a much higher likelihood of your manifestation of that same energy and experience in your real life, in your day-to-day life. Libra season also may be significant. I think, well, you know, like Capricorn into Libra season. You may be right in the middle of this process right now, in the middle of this journey right now. What is Capricorn season? It's like late December through late January. So basically at the beginning of this year. And then what is Libra season? That is late September to late October. Yeah. So before Halloween, before Thanksgiving-mas comes rolling through, I think that if you stay committed to this journey, that you will feel kind of a sense of lightness and relief and some kind of justice as you see it in your life, making itself more and more known, so that we can start a new cycle with some sort of new energy this fall, winter time, holiday season, Thanksgiving-mas season. Thank you guys so much for showing up. Thank you so much for showing up. Thank you so much for co-creating this communal space here. I hope that made sense and was useful for whoever it was meant to find. I will see you all next time, probably tomorrow. So we'll see. Love, light, peace, and personal responsibility. I will see you there. Boop.